So welcome to day two of your training. And uh, and if you are a new participant over here, please visit CDP Network's YouTube channel and see the day one after this session. Why? Because we have told a lot about what is all about cloud computing, the basics of cloud computing, and we also talked about why AWS is a major thing we took in this session, as well as what are the advantages in the demo session itself, what I covered. And moreover, we talked about another important paradigm in cloud computing called as identity management. And we talked a lot about IAM service, which is one of the main important service each and every cloud practitioner should know about it. And we talked a lot about IAM, and we talked about how to replicate our accounts, everything, etc. and etc. We talked a lot about in the last session. And today it's a big session for us. Why? Because we're going to cover a lot in this session. I'm not sure that whether 2 hours is enough for us to cover, but we'll try to cover entire thing. And I request the participants to make sure to ask your queries at the last 10 to 15 minutes. Why? Because we have a lot to cover. So plus, let me cover everything. Then we can join. I'll join with you for the queries what you have. And if I can't able to cover over here and try to post that in the WhatsApp group as well as in the Telegram group, I'll ping you the answer for the most. Right? Okay. Okay then. Okay. Let me share my screen. Okay, guys. Okay, we'll start. So today, what we are gonna do is that we are gonna start with EC2 service. So where I would say that it is a very important service in your AWS offering. But because if you're gonna be an AWS cloud practitioner, like if you're gonna attend your exams after this demo session or else after the session, what CDP network is planning for you, the very important service, what you see in your day-to-day life, like when you're going to be an AWS person, like when you're going to be an AWS developer, AWS solution architect, the major thing what you'll see is nothing but you'll try to put your EC2 at your code. Nowadays, without EC2, lots of architectures has been built with the help of serverless. Like one of the important paradigm now it has been evolving, but the keystone, like the stepping stone to the serverless, has been provided from the EC2 only. Like that's why I said it's a very important service in your AWS offering. Guys, please, I'm insisting you, if you're gonna attend your AWS Cloud Practitioner examinations, as well as for any other AWS examination, what you're gonna attend, like for an associate or in any other things, please try to learn the EC2 first. Get to know about the basics of server before getting into the other types of services like database, analytics, business integration, etc. and etc. But you need to know about what server will consist of. Today we'll see a lot about it. So first thing, we're gonna learn about what Amazon EC2 is. So EC2 is all about an elastic compute cloud. The abbreviation of EC2 is elastic compute cloud. In the last class, we talked about three different types of AWS services, three different types of cloud computing services. One is all about platform as a service. Another one is all about infrastructure as a service. Another one is all about software as a service. We said that those services is going to provide us the infrastructure. The service is going to provide us the platform for our application, what we have already have, so that we can use the platform to deploy our application. And finally, as a software, that service will be dealing as a service will be giving you as a software where you can use the software for your better use cases too. So one of the main thing in Amazon is in EC2 is that EC2 is your, what may I say, infrastructure as a service. So what is infrastructure as a service? As I said in the last class itself, what is all about the infrastructure? You guys know about the infrastructure is nothing but the OS. For your virtual servers, like for your VMs, virtual machines, like for your virtual machines, the operating system is all about, right? So I think so lots of what they say working professionals in the last class it's all called they have attended. They said they are working in the pre-sales and they said they are worked with VMware as a main tool for their working, right? You guys might know about what VM is all about, right? Why? Because you will be using one of the ISO file. Either it's going to be a Windows ISO file or Linux ISO file, or there are a lot of versions of what can I say Linux. Like you can able to use Ubuntu, like everything. Like you have lots of ISO files. So that ISO file which will be presenting in your own system is one of the OAs what you're trying to put it inside your virtual machines. So that is one of the infrastructures what you need, right? That's point number one. Point number two, like once OS is needed, we need to know about once OS is needed, we need to know about what are the hardware which is needed for it. Okay, that's very, very important, guys. Why? Because once you know about the hardwares, then you'll know about what software can be compatible with the hardwares what we are choosing. Yes, so far so good. Now, third thing, we need to know about the storage. Yes, why? Because we have everything in hand, but we need to have the storage in it. Like we need to store something else, something inside our virtual machines, right? So we need to care about these things. So as far as the infrastructure, I want to put it to you in a crisp thing, right? So you need to have a operating system, you need to have an hardware, and you need to have a storage in the thing. Let me guess. If all those three things given by one single service, then what are you going to be going to do? That is called as Amazon EC2, which is called as Elastic Compute Cloud. So, like your OS, like your hardware, like your storage, everything is going to be provided by the EC2, Amazon EC2, but in terms of virtualization. It's going to provide you a virtual server, not an on premises server. Okay, super, so good. Now, I would say, as I said, it's all about that. EC2 is one of the most popular servers whenever you go. Just see not the architecture what has been built. I'm talking about the not about the serverless architecture. I'm talking about the architecture which involves any other paradigm. Like if you're gonna use, if you were aware about SageMaker. So if you are aware about RDS, like relational database services, SageMaker for machine learning notebook services. So one of the big backbone of those services, nothing but integration with EC2, where EC2 wants to provide service for both RDS as well as SageMaker. There are lots and lots of numerous services where EC2 is being the backbone of it, right? So that's why I say in my thing, like I've been teaching AWS for the last 3 years, I would say whenever I start teaching EC2, please try to concentrate. Why? Because EC2 is one of the most important one. I would say it's a very popular one. Why? Because you need to know about how to integrate the services with EC2. That's the very important thing you need to know. Right. So what EC2 consists of? Let's talk about something much detail into it. So what EC2 consists of? The first thing is all about you will be provided with you will be provided with EC2 instances. Yes, I need to run my virtual machines. I need to create a virtual machines. Those virtual machines is nothing but it has been termed as sorry guys, sorry. I've been in the okay. So sorry. So So first thing you need to know about in EC2 is nothing but you are supposed to rent your virtual machines. That is nothing but your EC2 instances. We're going to talk a lot about those EC2 instances. Don't worry, we'll be covering a lot. And since now we have been using your virtual machines, now you need to know where you have to store the data. Like storing the data in virtual machines is one of the important things. But how are you going to store the data? You're going to store the data in virtual machines in terms of blocks where you will store, and that's the service which comes called as EBS or called as Elastic Block Store. Okay, so and now let's say you have a service, let's say you have an EC2 instance. So we actually configure that there should be only one input traffic and only one output traffic. According to our consumptions, we try to configure that it's going to be one input traffic to the server, and server is going to give you the output traffic either to the other users or either to the user who's going to send you the input traffic. You know about the client server architecture, right? If it is going to be one client, if it is going to be n number of clients, it's going to be n numerous number of clients, what are you going to do? That's the basic thing you need to know, right? So if you're going to have lots of clients, the server can't able to handle those clients at server can't able to handle all those clients at one single go. So you need to know how to balance those n number of requests coming from the clients, the n number of loads coming from the clients. And that is all about your elastic load balancing. We're going to talk a lot about this, where we need to know about the simple basic things before entering into elastic load balancing, which is called as the scaling and availability and agility. Right? We're going to learn about that thing. Now, okay, the last thing what we're going to learn in this today's session, we're going to learn about the auto scaling group. So what is auto scaling groups is all about? Let's take an instance. The instance is nothing but If I'm for your application, I'm being given with you with only one EC2 server. But unfortunately, based on the application needs, I need to have more than four EC2 instances. Can I scale this one EC2 instances since I do have in my application as only one EC2 instance? But according to the what can I say availability and according to the upgrade what I did, it now the application needs four EC2 instance. Now can I able to upgrade my one EC2 instance to four EC2 instance? Can I increase the number of EC2 instance? Yes, I can do. Where I can able to increase my one EC2 instance to four EC2 instance. Yes, it is possible. Now, let's take another instance. If I'm going to have four EC2 instances at all, but I'm not using all those four instances at one go. I'm going to use only one instance or two instances for a particular application, what I need. And so for that, the last two instances, what I have is still an unused instance, right? They don't need at all for my application. So what I have to do, I have to scale out. I have to remove those last two instances so that it might be an efficient one for me. Can I able to do that? Yes, I can able to do that. So which is nothing but for these two things can be done with the help of auto scaling groups. Okay, so you're gonna learn a lot about it. So try to make sure to have notes in your hand so that might help you a lot, and make sure that I'll also share the PPT to you so that it will help you a lot. Now, as I said in the beginning, knowing EC2 is the fundamental thing you need to know before entering into other services. As I said in the beginning, please try to learn Elastic Compute Cloud first, then get into the all the other services, like for the storage, like for the analytics, like for the database, like for the like business integrations, etc., etc., and etc. categories of services in AWS. I would say EC2 is the one thing you need to know. Okay, fine. Now, so before going let's talk about EC2 sizing and configuration option. So what is EC2 sizing? Why? Because let's take an instance. I'm gonna have an application, right? So I'm gonna have an application. This application is gonna have some kind of things like let's take an full stack application, which takes both server, which takes which takes have both front end as well as backend. So for this backend, we need to have a server. I need to set up a virtual server, and I'm gonna set up cloud server with the help of EC2. But we need to know what is gonna be the size of the EC2 based on the application. Yes, I would say blindly. Yes, based on the size of the application, we need to scale up the EC2. We need to see the size of the EC2 instance. Then you should know about what are the different types of EC2 instances, which we are going to talk those things in the later slides, and as well as how to configure our EC2 based on the application needs. Does EC2 has the configuration option? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. So let's talk about that. Okay, the first thing. So EC2, so first thing for your virtual machines, you are supposed to have your proprietary operating system. Either you can have Linux, either you can have Windows, either you could have Mac OS, or either you have lots of Linux like Ubuntu. And if I'm not there are a lot of Linux. I'm not a Linux user, but I'm trying to use it now because I'm fond of only Ubuntu, right? And Windows I've been using, but Mac I'm not using, but I do have an I need to use it. So these things are working around. So we need to know how we need to choose our own operating system where the server will run. Right. Second thing, how much compute powers and cores which is needed for that. That is the CPU, the capacity of CPU, what it is needed for the for the server. We need to configure that first. And as usual, let's say that you're buying a laptop, right? You're buying a laptop or you're going to build a PC. So you will be choosing the size of the CPU, size of the storage, like the ROM capacity. Either it's going to be HDD, either it's going to be SSD, and you'll be going for the RAM capacity, and you're going to be choosing the operating system, graphics card, etc., etc. The same thing you're going to be doing inside your EC2. That's it, right? And how much storage space is needed? As I said, whether it's going to be network attached or hardware attached, whether you're going to use EBS and EFS volumes, EBS volumes or EFS file system for your EC2. We're going to talk a lot about that, and whether you're going to use EC2 Instance Store for your storage space. Yes, that depends upon you. And network card depends upon the speed of card, and it will also have your public associated IP address. I'll give you an instance, guys. Okay, if you are trying to create your EC2 instance at the first go, right? You'll be given with two different IP address for your EC2 instance. That is your private IP, where that IP is been designated for you because you're the owner for the EC2 instance, and public IP, where you can share this public IP so that other customers and other property vendors can able to visit your, what can I say, EC2 instance, right? So far, so good. Then a very important thing, the firewall rules, the security group. So far we have created our EC2 instance, right? But we need to know how to secure our EC2 instance. So there are, as I said, there may be a lot of loads. Like the number of clients cannot be equal to one. They can be more than equal to one. Like there may be n number of clients, and we can't able to judge whether this client is an, what can I say, good client or not, whether it has been associated client with this port or not. So we can't able to check those things. So how we're gonna configure that thing? How EC2 is gonna provide us the thing? Like we're gonna have a firewall surrounding the EC2, which is called as SGs. Okay, SGs are nothing but your security groups. We're gonna talk a lot about this, guys. Okay, please try to go with the flow what I'm trying to put you, so that security groups is a very important concept. Okay, but because nowadays security groups has been advanced and a lot of other, what can I say, scenarios has been attached. So we'll try to make sure to put you in basic or basic definition or basic understanding what security group and what other things like, what can I say, EBS, EFS, and other things also. Right? And finally, you need to have a bootstrap script. So as you know that, so since you're all from the computer science background and you have learned about a basic thing, definitions, basic things about operating systems. If you have not done, no issues. Please go learn about the operating systems, just the basic things which is needed, so that you can clearly understand what I'm trying to say. Right? You can clearly understand what I'm trying to say. So first thing is all about the bootstrap script. So what is the bootstrap script? Let me give you an instance. The bootstrap script is nothing but, let's say you're running a system, right? For your what can I say? You're running your laptop for the first time. So you need to know where the OS is being stored, right? Yes, I do know the OS is being stored in the RAM. So first OS is stored in the RAM so that for RAM can able to execute this OS. Now, how the OS will get started? Right? What is the script which is so how the OS will get started? That's my why, because when I started learning about operating systems in my college days, I was very keen about how this OS will run. What is the things which is running behind this? What can I say? These hardware and how OS has been running, blah blah blah, etc. 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 So that's nothing but the script which involves the RAM will start executing the script, where the script will initiate the operating system. And that script is called as bootstrap script. Okay. At the first launch of your operating system, you will see that your RAM will execute the script which is known as bootstrap script, where the bootstrap script will contain the installation of all the drivers which is being needed. Clear? And here, in terms of EC2, we're going to talk bootstrap script as EC2 user data, right? It has been termed as EC2 user data when you're starting your instance, the first launch, you're supposed to put your EC2 user data, so that that EC2 user data will get executed. Clear so far? Okay. Now, what is EC2 user data is all about? So it is possible to bootstrap your instances using an EC2 user data script. Yes, sir, I would agree that, because if you should configure what you're supposed to, like, if you know, if I'm going to work with the operating system, like I need to have these number of drivers to be installed. And it's going to be audio driver, it's going to be video driver, it's going to be keyboard, input drivers, output drivers, etc. etc. I need to put all those things in my bootstrap script. And I need to know what are the softwares to be installed in the bootstrap script so that my OS will start running. So you need to mention all those things which is being needed for your operating system. Like same as for your virtual servers, you need to put for your EC2 instances, you need to put all those things. Like what server I need to install, what are the components I need to install. You are supposed to put all of your things inside your EC2 user data script so that the EC2 instance will start running the bootstrap script for the first launch. Now, you guys know, as I said, bootstrapping means launching commands when a mission starts, and the script is exactly runs once at the instance first start. As I said, it's not going to run at the agent every time your operating you're launching your EC2 instances, right? The script is going to run exactly once at the first start of your instances. And what are the EC2 user data is usually composed of? Okay, the first thing is all about you'll list out what are all the updates you are supposed to put. Second thing, you'll put all the software things what you are supposed to put. Like if you want to have, you are supposed to install all of your updates. You are install all of the softwares which is needed, and download the common files from the internet. Yes, but because let's say like for your file system, you need to have some other things from the outside of the what may I say mission. So you need to download those things and anything you can think of. As I said, like everything, like you're able to have any other audio drivers, video drivers, etc., etc. So this is all about EC2 user data, where the user data is nothing but the bootstrap script at the first launch of your EC2 instance. This script will run and start downloading all the necessary things for your virtual server to run. Clear so far? Yes. Now, the EC2 user data scripts runs with the root user. And if you want to know about the difference between the root user as well as the IAM user, please go back to the previous session what I've took. Get to know about what is the difference between the root user and what are the other key terminologies there inside the IAM user. You'll get to know about it. Okay, so far so good. Now we know what are all those things about EC2. We talked about the configuration types. We talked about the user data and a very important paradigm. Now let's talk about what is the EC2 instance type is all about. Yes. So there are different types of EC2 instance. And first thing is all about general purpose, compute optimized, memory optimized, accelerated computing, storage optimized, instance features, measuring instance performance, and high performance computing optimized. Before going much deeper into it, I would like to show you the website for you in a minute. I think so. You can able to see my Chrome browser, right? Guys, please answer quick. Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Right. So this website, like I can also paste. You can also take a snap of this website, or you can just put EC2 instance types in your web browser, where you'll get to know about all the instance types with their general definition, which is needed for. That's what I'm gonna delve into it, and I want you to go ahead and just see that the where we need to work on it. Like this, the M4.large, M4.x large, M4.2x large. This is nothing but how you specifically give the type of your instance. Let me give you the part. So this M4, like this, what can I say? M4.large. So when able to see those things, right? So, okay. So this M4 dot large. So this M4 dot large is nothing but the instance type which defines those things. So what this M4 dot large is all about? So yum is nothing but your instance type. So yum is nothing but your instance type. And 4 is nothing but your generation. This generation may, what may I say, um, will what can I say advance it. Why? Because it depends upon the AWS and their team. And large is nothing but the size. Like you may be able to see there is large, x large, 2x large, 4x large, 10x large, and 16x large. There are lots of different things, and you're able to see what is the dedicated EBS bandwidth for each and every instance type and the network performance, right? So this is all about the type what you want to know, right? There are a lot and lot different types, guys. You may be able to see like the general so the general purpose, the compute optimized storage. So there are a lot of different types, and they do have their defined instance type for them, right? They do have their different instance type for them. And let's get into the RPPT. So we'll get into the more the what can I say, the actual concept behind which instance type is suited for which type of application, right? Okay. Okay. Let's get into it. Fine. So So now today we are going to deal with general purpose and we are going to deal with compute optimize. We are going to deal with memory optimize and storage optimize only. And if you want to know much more about it, we'll try to cover that if it is needed. And let's get into it. What is general purpose and what is compute optimize? For general purpose. For general purpose distance type. So I would get the name itself, right? For your general purpose working, you can use this type of what may I say, general purpose instance types. So it is great for diversities of workloads such as your web servers and as well as your code reports. Like, right, let's give you an instance. So let's have a client which uses your what may I say, a client server web application. For those client server web application, it's a general purpose, right? I would say it is a general purpose. Then you can opt it for general purpose instance type. Right. So, and for your code repos, like you want to share your repo where that repo is going to be public and that public repository is going to be accessed by a lot of clients, right? So you need to have a server to back all those things. So for that, since it is a general purpose, there doesn't need much like what may I say, higher end of servers. Just a small end of servers is needed for them. So for that, you can go for general purpose and general purpose instance types will have a balance between compute, memory, as well as networking. Okay. Now, what is all about compute optimized instance type? So compute optimized instance type will work on the use cases such as, let's give you another overview. If I'm going to have my own web application, if I'm going to have a client, a server, I'm going to have a client or so a small web application, then general purpose is enough for me. But if I'm gonna work, if I'm gonna have an higher end of what may I say web servers, let's take an Amazon .com itself, an online e-commerce website, or Flipkart, the online e-commerce website, or you can go for Udemy, an online e-learning platform, Coursera, an online e-learning platform, or CDP networks, and online e-learning providers. So there are a lot of so you can able to see there are let me say the huge market. Like we do have a huge size. You don't have we actually don't maintain only one client and one server over here. There are a lot of clients. So we need to have an higher end of server which will maintain or which will be suffice for us to maintain all those things, right? So for that thing, you need to go for the compute optimized instance type. More than that, you'll be having your dedicated gaming servers. Yes, you'll be fond of gaming. I'm also fond of gaming, where I played NFS Most Wanted, the 2007 Back Edition, and a lot of other games, right? GTA, everything. So for those dedicated games, you need to have a server at the back, right? So for AWS, I would suggest go for compute optimize so that it will help you a lot. Then scientific modeling and machine learning. For your machine learning tasks, as I said, SageMaker is one of the notebook services which is going to provide you. We'll be covering that thing in our batch sessions too. So, like for your machine learning, you need to have an iron server. Why? Because why I'm specifying why machine learning should have iron servers. Why? Because you're not going to work only with the data, right? Not only with the non-visual data. You'll also be working with the visual data. So for this thing, you need to have a GPU attached instance type, right? So for those things, compute optimize is one of the solution for that. And you have high performance computing, high performance web servers, media transcoding, batch processing workloads. So for these kinds of things, I would suggest that go for compute optimized instance type so that it might help you a lot. Then you might ask a question. If I'm going to have a dedicated gaming server, right? I'm going to have a gaming server, but instead of going for the compute optimized instance type, I'm going for the general optimized instance type. Why? Why? Because the cost is always different. Why? Because for the general purpose instance type, the cost is low. Almost there will be a free type only. But for the compute optimized, the costs will be high comparatively. Then if someone asks, I'm going to have a gaming server which runs the biggest game in the world, but I don't want to put it inside the compute optimized type because I can't able to afford lots of huge of money. Then I'll be going for general purpose. Is it possible? Yes, you can. I'm not saying that you cannot. You can able to deploy your gaming servers in the general purpose instance. But the thing is, it will not work. Okay. So the capacity for general purpose instance cannot withheld. We cannot, what can I say, cannot handle or cannot hold the capacity given capacity provided by the gaming servers. So it's not possible. you can deploy it, but it's not sufficiently possible, right? Okay, now let's get into the memory optimized and storage optimized. So why memory optimized? Let's say, so if we're going to have an high performance relational and non-relational database, okay, why? Because it has first performance, and moreover, since we have to process large data sets in your memory, if you want to process your large data sets in your memory, let's take you're going to work with big data, right? We're going to work with relation, like a lot of biggest relations, non-relational tables, and if we're going to work with in-memory database for your business intelligence, and you're going to work with some real-time processing of your big unstructured data. If you're going to have a real-time thing of data, let's say you're going to use Kinesis, Amazon Kinesis for Kinesis streams. Either it's going to be data streams or either it's going to be video streams. You're going to use those things and get back. So, and get back to this part. Then I would suggest that go for memory optimized, right? I would suggest that go for memory optimized. So that's going to be the solution for you. And finally, we're going to work with storage optimized. So storage optimized is all about you going to work with online transaction processing systems. Let's take you're going to work with Redshift, right? So Redshift is one of the important database service where we're going to talk about that thing too. So the Redshift database service where you're going to work with online transaction processing, and moreover, as I said, for your high frequencies in and out, and for your memory databases, etc., or for your distributed file system DFS, then I would suggest go for storage optimized. So there are a lot more than to cover, guys. So I've covered only four: general purpose, storage optimized, memory optimized, and compute optimized. There are a lot more to cover. I have given you the websites. If you don't understand, we'll try to cover them in the next consecutive batches. Okay. So for so good, we talked a lot about EC2 instance. Now let's get into introduction to security groups. As I said, if I'm going to have an EC2 server, I need to protect this EC2 server. Why? Because I think so. You guys know about the attack called as DDoS attack, the distributed denial of service. If I'm not so, please go and search the internet, try to see a video, understand what DDoS is all about. Let's get into what security group is. Now, if I'm gonna have, I want to protect this. Why? Because there may be n number of clients will be reaching this EC2 server, but we can't able to justify each and every client at once. So we can't able to what can I say, whether this client is a good client or whether it's a fraudulent, is a faulty one. We might what can I say, destroy our EC2 or steal contents from the EC2. We can't able to put it over there. So how we are going to protect it? With the help of SGs, which is abbreviated as security groups, where we will attach the security groups, where these security groups will configure two important rules. One is inbound rules, another one is outbound rules, right? So what is inbound rules and what is outbound rules? Let me give you an instance. Let me say he's a client. He want to access the EC2 server. Okay. So now this path is nothing but the path what he's going to take to access the EC2 server. How he knows about the client knows about the EC2 server? Only with the help of client IP address. Yes, it is. Yes. Sorry, only about the EC2 server's IP addresses. Now, when he reaches the endpoint, the EC2 server, the security groups will have the associated inbound rules. We'll just try to see that in the next two consecutive slides, guys. I'm just giving you an overview of it. So this, what can I say? The the route what is gonna client is gonna take, it is gonna have an associated port address. Am I right? It might be port 22, it can be port 18. Extra, there are a lot of ports. If you want to know about the ports, right now we are not teaching that. I'm not teaching you that here right now. That's so possible. Now it has the port and the security groups where we create inbound rules. Where this inbound, when we create our inbound rules, we just say that, hey, listen, only when the port address is 22 and the port type, like if I'm gonna have the type as HTTP, I will accept. Neither HTTPS or SSH, I won't accept. I'm gonna say it as an allow property, right? I'll get you know about it. I'm going to say about the allow property. So this thing is all about security groups, where the security groups is going to provide you a rule that only with the port 22 with the HTTP server, I can able to allow the client, or else I'm not going to allow it. Please don't disturb me. Fine. So far, so good. Let's get into the part. So security groups is one of the important topics, guys. Why? Because there will be a lot of what can I say advancements happening in terms of security, in terms of security in AWS. I would say secure like if you want to get master, I would just learn about their. Go ahead, start with working, and make sure to attack it and try to defend it. I would say attack it and try to defend it. Right? So the security groups. So security groups are nothing but the fundamentals of network security in AWS, and it will controls both input traffic and output traffic from or to the EC2 instances, as I said for you. And security groups contains only allow rules. Please make sure to know this point, write down this point. It has only allow rules. But I have said in the definition, like when I'm saying HTTPS is not allowed, SSH is not allowed, but I won't explicitly say this thing. I won't explicitly say that I want to deny HTTPS or SSH, but I would say only HTTPS as an allow one. So if I say this thing, automatically HTTPS and SSH will not be allowed, right? So security groups contains only allow rules, and rules can be referenced by IP or by security group. So this is what is. Let's say you're gonna have an EC2 instance, and from the World Wide Web, I'm gonna have an input traffic. So let's say is a client, it's a server, right? So client has an IP address where the server knows about the IP address of the client. Only if the client has the particular IP address, I would allow him to access the server, or else no. Then server after processing the IP, then it's gonna provide you the outbound traffic. And moreover, at all the way, the outbound traffic will be for everyone, not for one particular IP or not for one particular port. Outbound traffic always be always be what can I say given to everyone in the thing, right? So doesn't that have any particular IP address or port range you should have now? So this is what the things, guys. As I said, when you're able to see the type HTTP and the protocol how I followed is TCP. I think so. What can I say? I think so. You guys know about the network, computer networks. Please try to learn about TCP IP protocol, UDP protocol, which helps you a lot in terms of server-based things. And port range is all about 80. And source, this 000 is nothing but from anywhere, right? I'm going to give you some descriptions for that. And SSH and custom TCP rule. So this is how your security groups will look like. That is, I'm allowing HTTP, the type of rule called as HTTP with the protocol TCP in the port range of 80, and the source is going to be from anywhere. I'm not going to properly mention his IP address. I'm not going to give you any IP address. The IP address can be from anywhere, but the IP address should have the port range of 80 and should have the type of HTTP only. No HTTPS is not allowed here. Let me give you an instance for that thing too. Okay, so security groups, as I said, will be acting as a firewall of an EC2 instance, and they regulates as follows. First thing, they access to ports. Either it's going to be port 80 or port 20 or port 18. There are a lot of ports you need to know. Port 22 and authorized IP ranges. You'll be having IPv4 as well as IPv6, both classless routing and classful routing. I think so. Since I think so, you guys know about what classless and classful in terms of IPv4 and IPv6, and you guys know about what CIDR2 classes into the mind routing to. So if I'm sure that if you're not so, please try to ping me in the group, so I'll try to answer those things too. And so I'm sorry, I've written 2 times. So control of inbound network and control of your outbound network is also possible in terms of security groups. Okay, so far so good. I've given you a clear understanding, but I wanted to give you more. Like, let me give you an diagrammatic representation for this thing. Let's say your computer, you're going to access the EC2 instance with the IP range of some other IP ranges, I would say, and you have your IP ranges. Let's say you're from anything. Why? Because I'm not going to have anything like you're going to have anything, but your computer has an authorized port of 22. So what I try is nothing but for this EC2 instance, I'll try to create one security group where this security group will consist of both inbound rules. Let me change the color of the pen. inbound rules and outbound rules, where the inbound rules will allow the traffic inside the EC2 instance and the outbound rules will exit the traffic from the EC2 instance. I'm going to say in the security group, in terms of inbound rules, is nothing but or filter all the IPs and filter all the ports with the rules, where I'm going to allow only port number 22 inside my EC2 instance. Now, this computer will access the EC2 instance and gets to the security group. Security group says that I can able to access only port number 22. I'll check the port number. Yes, it is correct. Now, this computer can access the EC2 instance. Can access the EC2 instance. After accessing it, the security group outbound rule says that go ahead with any port address. So it is goes to any port with any IP. One more thing. If I go have another computer, let's say it is not having any authorized port 22. Now it tries to access the EC2 instance, get back to the security group, and I do have an inbound rule in such a way that I can able to allow only port number 22 IP addresses. But unfortunately, this computer have an IP, but not an authorized port 22. So this is denied. It does not go inside at all. It cannot able to access the EC2 instance. This is all about your security groups. Yeah. And now security groups has been advanced to like security groups is also there. Now the advancements has been moved to NACL, Network Access Control List. And I would want you to go ahead, search about it. And I do have a, what can I say, there are 4 to 5 diagrams representing only NACL, but not here. Fine. So what are the things you need to know more? Why? Because I'm not going to cover this here. What are the things you need to know more? First thing, how to connect your EC2 instance from your various OS, SSH access. As I said in the last class itself, right? You guys do not want to work in AWS management console. You're supposed to work either with the programming language, go ahead with scripts like Terraform or CloudFormation, and or else work with the, what can I say, CLI. Now, I would ask you a question. How can you access your EC2 instance from your local machines? Okay. The thing is all about the SSH access to be provided. And one of the important thing is all about EC2 Instance Connect, where I'm not going to teach you right now here. And I think so you guys know about one more thing. Like, what may I say? From various OSs, how can you connect EC2 instance? There are 3 different types, I would say, but I'm not going to say how to do it and what are the different scenarios where you're going to work. The first thing is all about SSH access. And I think so you know about this particular thing called as PuTTY server. And the third thing is all about EC2 Instance Connect, right? EC2 Instance Connect. Okay. So if you want, go ahead and search, or if you want me to go ahead, then we'll try to put it in place. And so far, so go. We said that the client will access the, what can I say, EC2 instance with the help of SGs. Have we said that this SGs will access with any other SGs? No, right? But actually it does, and you're supposed to know it's correctly. Why? Because for the cloud practitioner thing, you need to know what are the referencing with other security groups. It's a very, very important thing, right? And some more deep dive concepts, which is available inside SGs. I would say it's very important for your certification, but we are not trying it here, right? So far, so good. Yes. So what is EC2 purchase options? So as I said, I'm not going to deal you much here. So let me give you an overview of it, right? So what is EC2 purchase option? So first thing, your on-demand instances. On-demand instances is nothing but based on the demand, based on the workload. If I'm going to have a short workload, like I'm not going to have any provision instances for me. Only going to be a short workload, and I can able to predict my pricing and pay by second. Then I would go for on-demand instances. There are different types of instances, guys. I'm going to give you the purchasing options for you based on the use case, what you have. And reserved. You can have a reserved instance. Let me say that I'm going to have an EC2 instance called as ABC. That ABC instance is being associated with me, and I'm going to reserve this instance, what I've been created for 3 years. So it's not going to be used by some other persons at all. It has been reserved for me. It is reserved. Like, let's give you an example. You have been reserving a ticket, either a flight ticket, either an what can I say, cinema ticket, etc. That ticket has been associated only for you, and that reserved ticket will be accessible only for the duration what you're going to spend. Either it's going to be in the flight, either it's going to be in the train, either it's going to be in the cinema hall for the next 2 hours to 3 hours. You're going to spend only that thing, right? That ticket is only accessible only for the thing, only for the particular time, right? For the long workloads, yes, this and long workloads with the flexible instances, you'll be using the reserved instances. Then savings plans, right? So like savings plans, we are also trying commit like we want to do nothing, but we'll try to commit to the usage of work, and it also depends upon the long workload if we're gonna pursue in behind your EC2 instances, and that can be put in inside 1 to 3 years, right? Now, spot instances, on spot instances, like how spot instances and on-demand instances is nothing but in terms of on-demand instances, you can able to predict the price as quick as possible. But in terms of spot instances, we will blindly say that it is cheap. But because we need for a short workload and we need to have it as quick as possible, and we can able to there is a possibility where you can also lose your instances, which is very, very less reliable. Okay, and dedicated host. So where you can book an entire physical server, and you can also book an entire control instance placement, which is being dedicated only for you, dedicated only for your company, right? Now, dedicated instance, no other customers will share your hardware. Yes, the instance which is being associated only for you, where you don't want to share it to other customers. Now, capacity reservation. You can reserve the capacity, like this much of capacity. I need to have 10 gigabytes or 10 terabytes of storage for my instance. So you are going to reserve a capacity in your specific AC for any duration. Like how reserved instances, the capacity reservation, they're going to be much more same. There is going to be instance, here it is going to be the capacities. And I would like to ask, and I would like to get to much more clear. A very important thing, which purchasing option is right for you, whether you're going to choose on-demand instance, whether you're going to use savings plan, whether you're going to use reserve, etc., etc. For which use case you need to know. I would say that if you know this answer for this question, you'll be having a very, very important thing behind it, a very, very clear understanding about for this use case. I would suggest that go ahead, use this EC2 instance. You go for this use case, go ahead, go and use the on-demand instance. For this use case, go ahead and use the reserved instances. That's the understanding behind the EC2 instance purchasing option. I'm not going to cover here. Go ahead and we try to make sure to provide you and other things. Fine. So far, yes. So now, so far so good. We talked about EC2 instances. We talked about the configuration types. We talked about a lot about EC2, and we talked like the types of EC2 instance. And we talked about SGs, a very, very important paradigm what we have. Now, what is storage? So where we learned about only one single topic of the EC2. There is one more topic we're going to learn into it. That's called as storage for EC2, where the storage has been provisioned with the help of Elastic Block Store. EBS. And have you seen here? But because for each and every components of which EC2, like if I'm going to have EC2 instances, if I'm going to have EC2 like EBS, ELB, the word elastic comes behind itself. If it is going to be a block store, if I'm going to have an instance, if I'm going to have a load balancer, the word elastic comes. Why? So get to know this answer at me last. Why? Because I need to know you the answer. Why the word elastic has been come? Why? Because we're gonna cover this elasticity at the at the end of the session. But because I need to know a very important thing, right? Why this word elastic is being attached to each and every part of it, right? So tricky, not a tricky question, but based on the understanding, you will try to answer this. Okay, what is EBS volumes? As I said, it's an elastic block store volume. Like you can just think about your pen drive, a network drive, where you attach to your system or attach to your laptop, try to use the contents, store the contents over here. There will be a distributed file sharing between them. And what may I say? So distributed file sharing between them, eject it and make use of it. So this is going to be the part where you're going to work on it, right? This is nothing but a network drive. I like nothing but a drive storage. What you have, where you can have a distributed file storage. But I would say that EBS is an analogy to the what may I say the pen drive, but not exactly has the pen drive. Okay, so it allows your instances to persist data even after the termination. Let's say you have terminated your instances. but you need to have the data which is being stored in your instances. Do you want to? Yes. EBS has the thing. EBS will have your data, the data of your instances, even the, what may I say, instances has been deleted. Then, so what is all about? So you can have what may I say, for your CCP level, I would say that go ahead and learn that EBS volumes, EBS volumes, one EBS volume is attached to one EC2 instance. For your CCP level, guys, if you want an advanced level, there is somewhat thing you need to know behind. But I would say for one EBS, you can attach your one EBS volume at one EC2 instance at a time. Okay, there might be possibilities too, only for your CCP level. I'm just saying, right? And they are bound to specific availability zone. Why? Because EBS volumes, if I want to say, if I'm going to have a region at Mumbai, okay, if I'm not wrong, AP South 1, yes, AP South 1. So AP South 1A, AP South 1B, maybe I'm just giving you an example, okay? AP South 1A, AP South 1B, AP South 1A and AP South 1B. So AP South 1A has this associated EBS volumes, and AP South 1B will have their associated EBS volumes. So there are specific to the availability zones. Okay. And as I said, think of them. And what is all about the free tier? For the free tier thing, you'll be given with 30 gigabytes of free EBS storage. Guys, please try to make sure that if any, what can I say, numerical things comes in this thing, please try to focus on it. Okay. Free tier, 30 gigabytes of free EBS storage for your general purpose SSD or for your magnetic per month. That is MPM, right? Okay. Now, give me more instance, right? So it's a network drive, not a physical device, where you can use this network to, what can I say, communicate with these things. I can able to store your data, what instance is needed. And let's say, I'm going to give you one more thing. If I have an EC2 instance, where this EC2 instance is being attached with EBS volumes. Let's say I'm going to name this EBS volume as EBS1. I'm going to have another EC2 instance. But as I said, I need this EBS volume to be attached to this EC2 instance, right? I need this EBS volume to get attached to this EC2 instance. In the last slide, I said that EBS volumes can be attached to one EC2 instance for the CCP level. But how can we do it? What are the steps we need to follow is nothing but first detach this. First, detach the EBS volumes which has been attached to the EC2 instance, and then attach to the newer one. Okay, if you want needed. Yeah, right? Okay. As I said, and one more thing, guys. So far so good. You have learned this thing, how to attach the EBS volumes from one EC2 instance to another EC2 instance. It's very simple. Detach the EC2 instance and attach to the new EC2 instance. But in the last slide, I also said that the EBS volumes are AZ specific, right? They are AZ specific. Now, let's say I'm going to have, let me take the same example. I'm going to have US East 1A and US East 1B. I have an EBS volume attached to it. Now, what I have to do something, but I have to attach the same EBS volume with US 1B. Can I do it? According to somewhat what we learned so far, we said that EBS volumes is attached to one specific availability zone. But we can able to transform, we can able to, what can I say, push the elastic block store volumes from one availability zone to our other availability zone by snapshots. I'm going to show you what snapshots would look like in the next slide. Okay, fine. You will have a provisioned capacity, size in GBs and IOPs, like input output operations per second. You can build for the provision capacity and increase the capacity of the drive over time. As I said, it's elastic. You can scale. Okay, I also sent the answer. So for the elastic meaning, right? You can scale based on the needs what you have. You said that I've taken only 30 gigabytes of storage, but I need 40 gigabytes, 60 gigabytes. Can I able to scale it? Yes, you're possible. Go ahead and scale the resources, scale the what can I say, storage what you have from 30 gigabytes to 60 gigabytes. That's why each and every components of EC2, like EC2 instances, EBS volumes, elastic load balancing, has been attached with a name called as elastic. Okay. Now, in the last slide, I've said it is an EBS snapshots, right? To transform your, what can I say, to transform your EBS volumes from one specific availability zone to another specific availability zone. You are supposed to snapshot it by EBS snapshots, and EBS snapshot is not specific to your availability zone, and thus EBS snapshot you can able to access it from anywhere. So this is how it look like. So where let's see, I have in US East 1A and EBS of 50 gigabytes has been stored, but I need the same EBS volume with the 50 gigabytes of storage in US East 1B. What I have to do, I'll make sure to use the EBS snapshot. I'll snapshot the EBS thing and I'll restore it from the snapshot what I have to snap. So these are all things which is being needed for you, right? So needed thing. Let's say give me an example. If this EC2 instance needs this thing, okay, needs this EBS volumes, according to two definitions, two different things we have learned. That is, detach this EBS volumes, attach this thing. But detaching it, attaching it, it's going to be what can I say, the cycle what we're going to follow, it's going to be a tedious thing, right? So each and every time another new EC2 instance will come, we need the same EBS volumes. We have to detach it to come this EC2 instance and go to attach the new EC2 instance quickly. It's being a very tedious thing. What can you do something better? Go ahead for the snapshot, where you can snapshot it and based on the snapshot, what you can do, you can make sure to replicate to the other EC2 instance what you have. And you can also across AZs or across regions, it is possible. Okay. Now, so far so good. We talked about EBS, and guys, there are a lot to learn about EBS too, guys. Okay, why? Because so far so good, you learned about what EBS is all about. Okay, as I said, so you might have judged this. What EBS will store is nothing but the data which is being persisted by the EC2 instances. But what data? You can also think about the EC2 user data script, what we learned. You can also store that thing. So for those storage, you need to have EBS volumes. But let's say now you're going to create a new thing, like create a new optimization. So you're going to have can I have a new optimization? Let's say now we're creating a new operating system inside your EC2 instance. So far so good. We said that EC2 instance has been provisioned with a lot of EC2 instances. There's a lot of operating systems like Windows, Linux, Mac OS, etc., etc. There are a lot of flavors of Linux. But if you want to create a new new configuration of your EC2 instance, then what is the name of the service? Go ahead. I'm saying you need to know about lot about EC2. So we have not covered we have not covered everything. I've just covered only the 30 to 40% of EC2 instances over here, where you need to know about one more thing called as AI, the Amazon Mission Image. That is all about you can configure your EC2 instance. You can customize your EC2 instance. And a very important thing, I've not covered it. And please make sure to, we'll be covering if time permits. And more than that, if you want to automate your AMIs, like if you want to automate the entire creation and everything. So what you're supposed to have, you need to have the entire automation, right? Then you have one more thing called as EC2 Image Builder. Okay, you'll be creating images, EC2 images, and this EC2 image builder will automate the entire process of creation of your customized EC2 instances. So we're not going to deal this here too. And so far so good, we learned about EBS volumes, right? We said that EBS volumes is being attached to EC2 instances, and EBS volume is going to give you a storage type, but I'm not so that we don't have high performance in EBS. Okay, there doesn't have any high performance. So if you want your EC2 instances with the storage with a high performance thing, then you are supposed to go for one more important storage type called as EC2 Instance Store. EC2 Instance Store. Guys, this is what may say. What may say. This is gonna be the huge topic. As I said, whenever you start learning, what may say, virtual servers and elastic compute cloud, the topic is not defined in one particular bucket. There are a lot to learn about it. Okay. So we're not going to deal in this, but I'm saying you the name of these things. There are a lot to cover. Why? Because you need to know about the concept behind it. How EC2 Instance Store will work. Why EC2 Instance Store is giving high availability and higher efficiency than the EBS volumes. You need to know the answer for the questions, right? And how can we customize? How can we customize our EC2 instances with the help of AMI? And how can we, what may I say, automate the entire thing with the help of EC2 Image Builder? That is all about it. Okay, so far so good. We just attached our block storage thing inside our EC2 instances. If you want to mount your file system, let's say you have NTFS file system. I think so guys know about what NTFS file system is, nothing but. Before going into elastic file systems, guys. Okay, so what is the file system for Windows? Okay, I not have time for asking questions. We'll ask the rough questions at the last. So Windows has the file systems such as NTFS, the new technology file system, and the FAT32, the file allocation table 32, and the FAT16. If you were aware about it, if you learned about operating systems, it might help you a lot. Okay, and Linux, as I said, Linux will have their directory, root directory, and with you'll have the extension extensions which will be available for you, and extensions for and etc. Okay, etc. So these are the file systems which is having inside your operating systems, like for your Windows, for your Linux. But for your virtual server, for your EC2 instances, can we have then file system which is being attached to it? Yes, it is possible. That is nothing but your elastic file system. So that is nothing but an elastic file system, which is a network file system where what you can do something but you can mount EFS on top of hundreds of EC2 instances. I would say there are hundreds of EC2 instances, and comparatively than the EBS volumes, EFS, the elastic file system is a bit more costlier. So people might don't use much elastic file system. But for your organization needs, if you want to use it, go ahead and use it. And EFS works with Linux EC2 instances, and I want to say that thing. EFS will work with Linux EC2 instances. Not only that, it will work for Windows EC2 instances, but you need to know how. Wait for it. Okay, and it works with multiple ASGs, guys. It works with multiple availability zones too. Fine. And higher availability, as I said, and you can able to look this picture where you can have the file system. The file system is bounded to EC2, ECS, EKS, Fargate. Fargate is nothing but an serverless, what can I say, renting machine. ECS is Elastic Container Service. EKS is Elastic Kubernetes Service. I think so. I'm not, what can I say, filling you with a lot of services. But when we are talking about containerization, we'll talk about ECS and EKS, but I'm not going to give you much thing. And Lambda, the triggering function. So you can mount this Elastic file system to any one of this. And a very important thing, guys, Elastic file system is a serverless thing. It does not need any server. I said it can be mounted to EC2, but it does not need any server to it. You can work on EC2, not only on EC2, you can work with ECS, not only with ECS, you can work with EKS too, Lambdas too, and your on-prem server. Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. Yes. Okay. Okay, guys. So let's get into the last topic of this today's class. And this last topic is not going to be a small topic we're going to learn. We're going to learn a lot about this. Okay. And before going into it, as I said about EFS, right? So we said that EFS will work only in Linux-based EC2 instances. But the very important thing, since I told in the last slide itself, Windows has their own file system, Linux has their own file system, and your Mac OS has own file system. Yes, for those file systems, what may I say? I would say what type of file system can be used? But because we can't able to say that each and every time we'll use the Linux-based files, Linux-based EC2 instance, right? We might also use Windows-based file system too. We might also use Linux-based. We can also use Mac OS, or your on-prem servers might have Windows, might have Linux, might have Mac OS. Then what type of cloud file system can help us along? The answer for your question is nothing but one service, which is called as Amazon FSx. So the name of the service is Amazon FSx. Okay. So there are flavors of Amazon FSx, which works on Windows, which works on Linux, Lustre, and Windows servers. They do have different names. So they have been associated with Windows file systems and Linux file systems. Okay, so far so good. Let's learn about the elastic load balancing, the auto scaling flow, and elastic. So this is going to be the last topic what we're going to cover in terms of EC2. And after that, if time permits, we'll try to what can I say, work on the what can I say, hands-on. I'll try to create one EC2 instance and how to access those EC2 instance. And let me try to do that thing. And if time permits, so that might help you a lot. But I'm not going to give you any. What can I say? I'm going to work with only the management console right now. Okay. Okay. Elastic load balancing and auto scaling groups. So scalability. First thing you need to know about is called as scalability and high availability. So might get into more perspective. Why? Because we learned a lot about this session for the last 1 hour, 12 minutes. So we learned a lot about. We learned about EC2 types, scaling. What can I say? Security group, EBS volume, ZFS, lot. So so you need to know a lot about it, right? Just give me a minute. Okay, guys. Sorry for the interruption. Okay, let's get into what is all about scalability and what is all about high availability. Okay, so scalability. If I'm gonna give you an instance, right? Let's say you have an application. Let's say you have an Amazon. Amazon is an e-commerce website. Let me give you e-commerce website. Now, based on that, lot of clients will be addressing this Amazon website. Am I right or wrong? Yes. Why? Because it's an e-commerce thing. There may be some numbers. I don't know about the let me say a business insight about AWS, Amazon. But the thing, a lot of client will be accessing the Amazon website, like the e-commerce thing. But since if I said in the beginning in the beginning of the class, Amazon is a huge market, right? If you're gonna have only one EC2 instance for handling all those things, is it sufficient to do those things? Is it sufficient to handle all those client requests what they are coming in? Not at all. So if I'm gonna have lot of greater loads, how the things gonna adapt it? If I'm gonna have the load is being increased, how the EC2 instance is gonna handle it? How is gonna adopt it? So that's where the technology came, or I would say the concept came, called as scalability. So where the scalability means that an application or a system can handle greater loads by adapting it. How it is gonna adapt it? Let me give you an instance. How we gonna adapt it? First, before that, there are two types of scalability. One is all about vertical scalability. We're gonna learn about that with an example. My favorite example when I learned about scalability, I've taken here vertical scalability, and another one is all about horizontal scalability, which is near more equal to elasticity, right? And scalability is linked but different to high availability. We'll talk about high availability at the end of this thing. Now let's deep dive into this distinction. Why? Because as I said, I'm going to take my huge in my what is it own example, and not a own example. When I learned about scalability and high availability in terms of load balancing, I use this example to understand what I'm trying to learn. So that helped me a lot. That's why I gave you the same example, the call center example. Let's say, first, let's talk about a vertical scalability. Let's say, what may I say? I am the junior operator inside the call center. So I've been working with some of the tasks which has been given to me. But unfortunately, I need a senior operator who needs to manage those things. Okay. Why? Because I need to report to the senior operator. I've said these tasks has been completed. I've come up with this bugs. I need to resolve this bugs and came over this thing. And I'll be working with the next day with this one, etc., etc., etc. And the senior operator will judge the junior operator, gives the work to him, and make sure they do have a beautiful conversation within them. Now, now for senior operator, we should have another manager. Where the manager will, what makes it, the manager will try to have a communication with the senior operator, will try to have the same conversation how the junior operator and the senior operator has. The same conversation will be happening between the senior operator and manager. Manager will go for the director, director will go for the other higher officials. So this is all about vertical scalability, where we increase the positions of the persons who are working in the working in a company from junior position. I would say, like, go ahead with an intern position first of all. Intern position, junior operator, senior operator, manager, directors, and the chief executive officer, CTOs, etc., and etc. So this has been scaled based on their position, based on their compatibility, based on their role, what has been allocated for them. That is an example of vertical scalability. Let's say how we, so before going into it, before going to think, I would say how vertical scalability can be associated in terms of virtual service. Let's say you have an EC2 instance, right? You have an EC2 instance, uh, EC2 instance. Let's say you have the instance called as m4.large instance. We've seen what m4.large is. Now, I need to transform this EC2 instance to an higher state. Am I right or wrong? To an higher state, which is m4.2x large. And I need to transform this m4.2x large to the m4.3x large, and goes on. Now, this is the position where intern stands. This is the position where the junior operator stands, and this is the position where senior operator stands. This concept is called as vertical scalability, where I'm going to increase the capacity of the instances what I have. I'm not going to replicate the instance. I'm going to increase the capacity of the instance what I have. I do have m4.large EC2 instance, but I'm scaling to m4.2x large EC2 instance. From m4.2x large EC2 instance, I'm going to scale up to m4.3x large EC2 instance, and goes on, goes on, goes on, goes on, goes. This is called as vertical scalability. Guys, I think so might understand it. Okay. Let's see the slides what we have. So vertical scalability means increasing the size of the instances. So we increase the capacity from x large to 2x large, from 2x large to 3x large, from 3x large to goes on what we have. And for example, if you want applications to run on T2.micro, right? Because T2.micro is the EC2 instance type, which is a free tier instance, guys. Okay. Why? Because when you're running, if you're trying out in your own, when you have your AWS management console, please try to use T2.micro, which is one of your free tier EC2 instance type. If you go for M4s or if you go for any other EC2 instance type, you are supposed to pay for what you're trying to use. Okay. Now, if you want to, what can I say, scale it from T2.micro to T2.large, then that is called about vertical scalability. And you can able to see a vertical scalability in your non-distributed systems, such as your databases, but because the database complexity may be differs. Okay, if you want the number of storage might be differs. In the initial stage, you have only first 10 rows, and in the next stage you have 500 rows. In the next stage you have 1k rows. Next, then you have 1 lakh rows. So it might be increasing. So for that, you need to have the associated EC2 instance for that. Clear so far? This is one type which is called as vertical scalability. Now, horizontal scalability. What is horizontal scalability? Let's say I will give you an instance. If I'm going to have an application. Okay. Okay. So before going into the application, let's say he's an operator. Okay. Let's take the same instance. He's an operator. Okay. This operator works on one of the important thing called as, let me say, he's going to work with cloud, working in the cloud, working in the security part. Okay. Working in the security part. But since the company has a lot of things to handle, only he can able to handle all the cloud security what he has. So what we have, I'm going to hire another operator with the same cloud and with the same security, in the same security group, security domain, I'm going to have hire. Still, I can't able to afford it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hire one more operator with the same cloud and with the same security. Still, I'm going to hire another one. Still, no, I'm going to hire another one. Still, I'm not going to have another one. So now I'm not changed the type of the operator. Whether I have changed the type of the operator? No, I have changed only, I do have only the same operator. But Instead of having one at my company, I'm going to increase two to my company. I'm going to increase three to my company with the same type of configuration, with the same type of domain what they're going to work on. I'm going to increase four, I'm going to increase five, I'm going to increase etc. etc. This is called as horizontal scalability. To give you more instance, if I'm going to have an application, that application has one EC2 instance with T2.micro as the EC2 instance type, but it is not enough for me. I need one more EC2 instance with the same type. I'm not going to have any type variations. I'm going to have the same type, which is T2.micro. Yes, and I'm going to do it. One more, T2.micro, and goes on. Can you able to see the difference between the vertical scalability and horizontal scalability? In terms of vertical scalability, what we did is nothing but we changed the size of the EC2 instances what we have from T2.micro to T2.large, T2.medium, T2.large, T2.x large. But here we have the same number of instances, but we increase the number of instances what we have in our application. So this is called as horizontal scalability. And as I said, this concept is called as elasticity, where based on the load of the application, what we do is nothing but we increase the number of instances what we have. That's why the word elastic instance for elastic compute cloud for EC2 instances, elastic block store. You can provision your block storage, and you don't want to care about the amount of block storage you have. If the block storage is going to need it more, you can easily scale it up. And elastic load balancing. If you have a lot of clients addressing to your EC2 instances, you can scale it up fastly. And auto scaling groups. We talk about that auto scaling groups in a couple of times. Okay, that's why the word elastic comes into our thing. Yeah, so far. Okay, let's see what we have in the slide. Okay, so horizontal scalability means increasing the number of instances, systems for the application, what I just said. So implies distributed systems. And I would say this is very common for your web applications and modern applications, right? For your web applications, needed, like if you want needed like your EC2 instances, the number of EC2 instances needed more than the should what you think of, then I would say go ahead and for horizontal scalability. And it is very easily to horizontally scale. And why? Because thanks to AWS, Amazon EC2, and AWS offerings, because rather than it is not too difficult for you, it is very, very easy for you to horizontally scale up your EC2 instances, what you have. Okay. Now, we talked about scalability. Now we need to know about what availability is all about. Let me take the same instance. Let me take the same call center, for example. I do have one of the call center location at New York. Okay. And New York is addressing some of the calls what we have. Okay. Now, unfortunately, what happens? Disaster has came inside the New York office. Okay. So the office has been gone. The office has been destroyed completely. Now, who will take care of that? Since I do have only one building in the New York, since the New York building has been completely destroyed. Now, what happens over there? I don't have any other person. I need to build it from the scratch. So it's going to be a tedious thing, and it's going to be very difficult for me to build it from scratch. But instead, what I can do, I do have a second building in the San Francisco. Okay, where they're going to work the same thing. They're going to address the calls. The thing is, if one of the building has got demolished or got destroyed by the disaster, then other building will take care of the others. This is an example for your, what can I say, for your call center. Come back to this thing. Let's say your EC2 instances has been associated with only one, associated within only one availability zone. Okay, it's not distributed. I'm saying it's not distributed over a availability zone. What happens if any disaster comes? This EC2 instance will completely destroy, and the attached EBS volumes not yet, but we do have an option to that thing too. We do have an option for the deletion too. So not it. So what are all the EC2 instance can provide? It is completely destroyed. Now, what I have to do, I have to build it from scratch. I have to attach the I have to build the EC2 instance from the scratch and then I have to attach the EBS volumes, etc., and goes on. But instance, what I can do, what I'll do something, but I'll create one more region. Yes, I do have another EC2 instance. What can I say? I do have another AZs. In that AZ, I will replicate this EC2 instance, where I'll share this replicate instance in the USC's 1B. What happens? Now thing is, even if I have disaster in any one of the regions, the other region will take care of it. This is called as high availability, where the availability of EC2 instance and EBS volumes is being shared among the availability zones to make sure to provide better understanding towards it. Right? Okay. Now let's see what we have in the thing. So far so go. We learned about scalability and availability. So high availability usually goes hands-on ends with horizontal scaling, and high availability means running your application systems at least two availability zones. I would say at least two. You can go ahead with more than two, because that depends upon your cost line. If you have a lot of money and your application is want to be fulfilled, go ahead. Go ahead and go, like we say, go, put it in your scale. And the goal of high availability is to survive a data center loss. That means a disaster, what I said so far. Now, high availability and scalability for EC2. Now, so far we learned about what availability is all about, what scalability is all about. Now, let's get back to the thing, what we are supposed to be there for EC2. This already we have tested. So for vertical scaling, from T2.nano to T2B1.metal, we are increasing the size of the instance. And for auto scaling group, as I said, the number of instances has been increased. Like that's the concept called as auto scaling groups, ASG. That is based on the based on the sufficient thing, we need to scale up our EC2 instances and load balances and high availability. What we'll do, we'll have that auto scaling group in multiple availability zones, which is being termed as multi-AZ, and load balancer in multi-AZ. Okay. And I think so. You guys know about scalability, elasticity, and agility. I'm not going to take much time for those things. Okay, now let's get into what elastic load balancer is all about. So, elastic load balancer is nothing but, let's say I'm going to have a client, and I say, I guys, I also said about it. Please go and have a look about what DDoS attack is all about. Okay, why? Because once you understand about DDoS attack, you will understand about load balancer, and you'll also understand about security groups. Okay, let's say I'm going to have n number of clients using internet, but because using internet, they're going to access the servers what we have. Let's say here it is say giving it as an on-premise servers, but I will say it as a virtual server. Okay, so what I have to do something, but they can't able to directly access it. Why? Because if I'm going to have only one virtual server, what happens? They go and directly access it, and the virtual server can't able to handle all those things. All right, can't able to handle all those things. Now we need to have a load balancer, where the load balancer will balance the loads which is coming to the EC2 server, and will switch the number of traffic coming to it. Okay, so for this thing, what we have to do, we have to increase our number of instances. All right, so that's why I just said, guys. Moreover, what prominently people will suggest nothing but try to use both elastic load balancing and auto scaling groups as one. Why? Because based on the number of clients, load balancer will be working with the auto scaling groups to make sure to provision the number of instances what you need, and they will allocate the traffic to the associated virtual servers what you are needed so far. Okay, so this is all about. And why do you use a load balancer? You might get a question. What is the reason to use a load balancer? Okay, first thing, you can split the load across multiple downstream instances. And as I said, you do have a single point of DNS to your application. Okay, since this application has a lot of client accessing to it, a lot of client networks which is coming into it, we need to know what a single point of access. The DNS which is being provided to the clients is to be very much sufficient, and it should be appropriate to the thing what we are working so far. Okay, and seamlessly handle failures of downstream instances. Let's say if I'm going to have a client, this client is trying to access the EC2 instance, but unfortunately, what happens? Nothing but other client has been accessing the EC2 instances. It has been waiting for a long much of time. So what happens? It leads to the downstream. So that's why load balancer makes a choice. Okay, please wait for a small amount of time. Once the EC2 instance gets completed, then I'll allocate you for that. Right? Do regular health checks to your instances. That's also very important. And as I said, it provides your SSL termination, the secure socket layer termination for your websites. And this is all about the high availability across zones, guys. Okay, what is all about that is, okay, listen. So we talked about these lots of EC2 servers, right? EC2 servers, we would suggest that this EC2 server at ES is 1 gig. and this will be US East 1B. That means load balancer across multiple ACs. And let me say AP South 1, AP South 2, AP South 1A, AP South 1B. So maybe I can provision my virtual servers, EC2 instances across multiple availability zone, and the load balancer will take care about that so that it will multiply our instances, or they can multiply the each virtual services across multiple availability zones. Clear? So far, clear, right? Okay. Now, what is auto scaling group? I took this picture. So what is the auto scaling is nothing but, let's say I'm going to have the maximum size as this. Maximum size what I have. Yes, what I have is. Now, the thing is the actual maximum size which is provided for by the application. For this application, what I did is nothing but I have been associated with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 EC2 instances. Okay. But for my need, I need only 3 EC2 instances. Only 3 EC2 instances needed. Yes, only 3 EC2 instances needed. This one, and this one. So remaining these 3, I'm not going to use it much. So what I have to do, instead of having that in my application, I can scale out. I can scale out so that I can reduce the cost. I can reduce the impact of it. I can able to have higher efficiency and higher, what can I say, availability towards that. Okay, this is one thing. That means if I have extra EC2 instances, I can scale out as I need. But instance, now this application, instead of having, what can I say, in this application, instead of having 6 EC2 instances, that application need 8 EC2 instances. So remaining 2 more we need. Yes, remaining 2 more I need. What I have to do, I have to scale in the applications what are all needed. The scale in the EC2 instances. So what I do is I will attach 1 more EC2 instances, and I'll attach 1 more EC2 instance, which is 7 as well as 8. So to make sure that it will run. So the auto scaling groups what I have in my hand will work for both scaling in. That is, if I want extra instances for my application, I can scale in the application. Or if I have extra applications but it is not needed, I can scale up the application. Okay, I can scale up the application. This is what auto scaling group is all about, right? And if I'm not wrong, in the last session we talked about LPP, which is least privilege principle. Okay, guys, if you were aware about it, please try to, what can I say, compare this least privilege principle with the concept what I said so far, and the questionnaires will try to address those things. Okay, fine. What is auto scaling group? In your real life, load on your websites and application can change, and in the cloud, can create a bit of those. As I said, the same thing what is coming over here. Now, what is the goal of an auto scaling group is all about? The goal of the auto scaling group is all about, if your application needs more EC2 instances than you what are already, what may say, allocated, then auto scaling groups can scale in. Sorry, scale in the, I think so the words has been reversed, guys. It's scaling in and it's scale out. I'm sorry, I think so it might be changed it. So scale in the additional EC2 instances what you needed for your resources, for your application. That is possible. But if you have extra EC2 instances but it's not the case which is needed for the application, then you can scale out that EC2 instances, remove the EC2 instance to decrease the load, to make sure to have a compacting in your application. Yes, we can have, and ensure we have a minimum and maximum number of machines running. Okay, so that is, we need to have a compact thing running inside our organization, running inside our application. We don't want to, what they say, explicitly say that I need n number of things. I need 20 number of EC2 instances, but I'm not going to work only. I'm not going to work with 20 EC2 instances. I'm going to work only with 10 EC2 instances, or 10 EC2 instances, or 5 EC2 instances. So I'm not getting much into it, right? So that depends upon that thing too. So you need to know about how far you need to ensure that how much is minimum, how much is maximum number of machines you want to run in your application. Then, since I said we can able to easily scale in and able to easily scale out, does we want to do it manually? That no. That's why the word auto came. It is automatic. You will suggest the type of instances what you need. Whether it is going to sufficiently say that we don't need to have any vertical scaling towards that. Based on the number of instances I do have, since I do have T2.micro in my application, if I want to scale it up to T2.medium, go ahead with T2.medium. You will sufficiently say that thing, but you're not going to create it. You're not going to create it manually, but instead, auto scaling group is going to do it automatically. Or else, if you want horizontal scaling, then go ahead. Go ahead with the horizontal scaling. Increase the number of instances what you have with the same instance type. And very important thing, if any one of the EC2 instances is not healthy, right? If it is not working good, and the EC2 instances does not take any type of traffic or does not give you any type of output, then it is implies that the EC2 instance is not working good. They want to remove it. Why? Because manually we can't able to check each and every EC2 instance whether it is working good or whether it's not working good. We can't able to do it. It's a time consuming process and it will be huge hectic for us. So how can we do that thing? Auto scaling groups provides us the instance in such a way that it will also replace the unhealthy instances what we have with the stack of applications. Clear so far? Okay. Cost saving. So only run at the optimal capacity. Okay, that's one of the principle of the cloud what we have, right? But because based on the needs what we have, we are supposed to provision the cost what we have. Based on the needs what we have, we want to scale the number of instances what we have. That is very, very important in terms of what may I say, cost optimization, and one of the important principle in the cloud. Okay. And as I said, in terms of EC2, the ASG with load balancer, let's say I do have a web traffic. I'm going to have a web traffic, and this web traffic is going to associate the load balancer. What load balancer will do? It will take the, what may I say, traffics from the web, and it will assign each and every traffic to the EC2 instance what we have to make sure to provide high availability, and it should not have any time consuming process. Any one of the traffic should not wait for huge number of time. So we need to have a lot of EC2 instances. So what happens? So we say that only 3 EC2 instances should have in our composition, but unfortunately the traffic is huge. Unfortunately, the traffic comes at 6 or comes at 7. So we need to have other EC2 instances. Why? Because the traffic which helps these EC2 instances does not does not get completed at the particular period of time. So we need to have a lot of EC2 instances. What we'll do? We will try to focus in such a way that we'll try to put a lot of EC2 instances with the help of auto scaling groups. Okay. So with the help of auto scaling groups, we'll try to put it over there. Right. So this is how the ASG will work with the help of what can I say, load balances. And I would like to give you one more thing before the summary. That is elastic load balancer. We talked about what ELB is, right? The ELB will take all the web links or all the web traffic what we have, and it will allocate their EC2 instances for the web traffic to maintain to give high availability and efficiency, etc., and etc., and etc. Right? There are 4 different kinds of ALBs available in EC2 in Amazon. Where I'm not going to give you any depth thing about 4 kinds of it, but I'm going to mention it only. Okay. So what are the 4 different kinds of ALB what we have? Okay. The first thing is all about NLB, which is the network load balancer. Okay, so network load balancer, which balances the networks which is coming inside to it. There are a lot more to learn about network load balancer, guys. And GLB, which is gateway load balancer. Why? Because if you're gonna go for higher end of certifications like AWS developer, AWS solution architect, you need to know about NLB, you need to know about GLB, and you also want to know about the ALB. That is based on the applications. We have the application load balancer. And finally, we have the CLB, the classic load balancer. The classic load balancer. Okay, so get to know about these 4 types. So we talked about the classic load balancer. We haven't talked much about network load balancer, gateway load balancer, or application load balancer, but it is also one of the important topic where you need to know about that thing before entering into the any one of the certifications. Okay, so let's see summary. So this is the end of the session two. Let me give you the session as a summary of the session, and we'll take the questions. So what and all we learned in this section? So in this session, we learned about the one of the important servers, which is called as EC2 instances. All right. So the EC2. So we talked about the Elastic Compute Cloud. We talked about the EC2 instances, the virtual server offering service, and we talked about the different types of EC2 instances what we have for the particular use case, whether it turned to be compute optimized, memory optimized, storage optimized, general purpose. We also talked about the EC2 instance store options and which purchasing options you want to take apart, whether it's going to be on demand, spot, reserved, capacity reservation. And we talked about the security groups, which is nothing but the security, one of the important security you need to know about in AWS offerings, where it provides you the firewalls to the EC2 instances. And we also talked about the EC2 instance purchasing options. And in terms of Elastic Block Store, one of the important storage options available inside your EC2 servers. So where you have EBS volumes, the block storage for your EC2 servers. And if you want to have the same EBS volumes to the other availability zones, since EBS volumes has been attached to one specific availability zone, you are supposed to snapshot it. And we talked about the Elastic file system, where we attach the file system, mount the file system on hundreds on EC2. Since it is bit costly, we don't try it much. And right now we talked about elastic load balancer. We talked about auto scaling groups. We talked about scale up, auto scaling. What is scalability? What is availability? What is agility? We talked about what load balance is all about, what auto scaling groups is all about. And we talked about the different types of elastic load balancers like network load balancer, application load balancer, gateway load balancer, classic load balancer. And we talked about how to integrate auto scaling groups with load balancers options too. And when we talked about the file systems, we also talked about the FSX, and when we are creating our own EC2 instance configuration, we talked about Amazon Mission Image, and to entirely automate the creation, working on those things, we said that go ahead and use EC2 Image Builder, where that EC2 Image Builder for your we can automate the entire thing. Okay, so that's the end of the session today. So I could answer the questions. So
Hello, sir.
yes,
Very good afternoon. Sorry, good morning, sir.
good morning.
Sir, I want to know that will you provide practically or not?
I'm sorry,
Practically, you provide the classes or not?
I can't able to hear you. Your voice is too low.
Sir, I want to know that can you provide the practical classes or not?
Practical classes. Once
Yeah,
the
yeah.
time proficiency gives us thing, we'll be providing you the practical classes. Why? Because today itself I planned you to create one EC2 instance and get to know about what security groups is all about. But unfortunately, we don't have time for those things. So once the time permits, we'll try to have the practical sessions.
Sure, sure, sir. And sir, just now I am facing issues in this volume. How to create a volume, how to detach the volume, and how to attach the volume. There is
Mhm.
a little bit issue I am facing. So that's why, sir, I want to know about the practical classes.
We'll be going with the practical sessions, but I think so. Today, the session, since I told in the beginning, right, there is a huge thing to cover today. So, actually, the thing, as I said, uh, EC2 needs almost 4 to 5 hours of learning. Okay, that 4 to 5 hours will give you the foundational thing behind EC2. So, I've just touched only the 50% of EC2 what we have. Okay, so since the given time, we need to scale it up everything what we have inside EC2, right? So everything what we have inside EC2 as well as for the cloud practitioner CCP level 2. So to try to push if it is needed, we can do it. Okay?
Sure, sir. And also, I want to know about the how to SSH login in Git Bash.
SSH1, okay, we'll try to provide if it is needed. Okay.
Sure, sir.
Guys, your PPTs will be shared by the admin team, so no worries. I'll be giving you the PPTs within the next 5 to
Hello? Hello?
yes.
Yes, I have a question. So how can I get more resources about when are we going to have another class? Somebody sent me the link, but I don't have any information. So I wanted to know, like, how can I access the class and everything?
Which class? I don't know which class you're talking about. You want to know
I
about
mean,
the
this, yeah, the session right now, like how to access it.
Okay, so I think so the admin team, are you, so you'll be in the WhatsApp group, right? Or you'll be in the Telegram group, okay? The admin team will provide you, like, they will, what can I say, share this entire session in a YouTube. They will be hosting that entire session in YouTube, and they will be providing you the links. You can check the group description. You'll be finding the links for your thing. Or else go ahead, uh, type CDP networks in YouTube. You'll be finding the sessions what we have taught.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir.
Basically, for ABS, you mentioned about snapshot. This snapshot is
Yes.
basically a kind of a backup.
Sure. The archive thing.
So, uh, I mean, you don't require a separate third-party backup solution for this.
Mm, the thing is all about why snapshots has been released is nothing but we do have S3 snapshots too. So why? Because tomorrow we're gonna learn about what S3 is all about, right? I'll be teaching you the S3 snapshots. The thing is, snapshots has been released in such a way that the things like the EBS has been associated to one specific availability zone. What we've seen, right? So, like when developers reached out, right? So since there will be a lot of availability zones, why? Because I am in AP South 1A, and if you are working with US 1A, and someone is working in US 1B, right? I need to have all the EBS volumes at one go. Like, since you need to access the same EBS volume, I need to access the same EBS volume, and the other person is also has to access the same EBS volume. But I'll give you an instance. If you have the same ECS, what can I say, EBS volumes attached to you, can you able to share the EBS volumes to me?
No.
Or can you able to share the EBS volumes which is being using by the other person?
No.
That's the case where that's the case where snapshots have been released. So snapshots has been released in such a way that to make it more high available. Like I do want other persons from other availability zones to use the same things to use the elastic block store volumes what I'm using right now. So that what they did is nothing but go ahead and back up the EBS volumes what we have. Go ahead and store inside a common repo, common storage part that is called as EBS snapshots. And from those EBS snapshots, n number of people and with an n number of availability zones, they can able to access it. As you said, the word snapshot backup is all about they use it to back up the EBS volumes. Yes, I'd suggest that thing as an particular answer, but not only for your backupping it, to use it for more high availability, they've used the EBS snapshots.
Thank you.
Excuse me, sir. I have one question.
Yeah.
Actually, the class is going fine and training is going very excellent. You are delivering very good knowledge. I just want to know, okay, yes, as far as the class is going on, we also need some hands-on practice. So for that, I hope that you would deliver us some labs on that we can practice remotely even after the course is completed. So just want you to know something about that, sir. Thank you very much.
Labs, okay, remote labs for you,
Yeah,
but
for all of us, sir. For all of us.
no, that's what I'm saying. Remote labs for you guys, okay. And
Yeah,
who just spoke? Can you just spell your name? Who just spoke? Who's the one? Hello. Who's the one who's asked this thing?
Houston.
Yeah, you, right? I think so. Your name is Hamad, right?
Yeah,
You're the one,
yes,
right?
yes.
Yes.
I'm a
Okay.
Wajahat.
I want you to search one thing, Hamad. Okay. Go ahead in the Google. I want you to search for free AWS Cloud Lab providers.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Go ahead. And I want you to give an instance, nothing but instead of providing it, okay, I want you to give you another more chance. Go ahead and start creating your own account. Do you have an AWS account?
Not yet.
Okay. What I suggest you not only for Hamid, only for the entire people who are available, go ahead and create your own AWS account. It is very simple to create, Ahmed. You can just go in AWS Management Console by providing your detailed informations with a card. What they want you to charge you for $1, I think so. $1 for inter-transaction. They want you to pay for that. Go ahead and start using the AWS Management Console for you for you guys. Right? So, but because once you start using your AWS Management Console, I would suggest that I'll provide you some resources, and with the help of those resources, you can just start learning. Okay.
Okay.
But because as I said in the first slide, the time consumption is very, very important for us. I need to complete this entire class within next 7 minutes. Okay. So everything should be compacted within this 2 hours. So instead of directly learning the hands-on, you need to know that everything in advance about the concepts which is needed for you. Okay.
Yes,
If I go
yes.
directly for the EC2 instance hosting, right? If I go directly for the EBS instance type, you can't able to understand, right?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, it's Praveen here.
Yeah.
Have a question. The scale out is something is adding the EC2, right? And the scale in is something removing the EC2s, as far as what I know. So I think you told that it's in other way around. So just got confused. Just wanted to have a clarification.
Okay. I'm sorry. Actually, what you said is correct. Scale out is nothing but adding in EC2. Scale in is nothing but removing EC2. Have I said it in a different way?
Yes, I believe so. That's why I just wanted to have
Oh,
a
I'm
clarification.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the
No,
trouble.
no
Okay.
problem.
Okay.
That's where I just wanted to have a clarification. Thank you.
Guys, sorry. Scale out is nothing but adding EC2 instances, and scaling is nothing but removing EC2 instances. I think so. I've delivered in the opposite way. I think so. I'm sorry.
Yep. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
that.
Thank you for that.
Hello. So
Yeah.
one clarification I need, as it was discussed in the last session, that this snapshot is being used for ASGs, right? We cannot use a snapshot for EC2 instances, right?
Snapshots for EC2 instances. I can't able to understand the pipeline what you're trying to say. Why EC2 instances need snapshots? Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm happy
No,
to answer.
I'm a bit confused here, right? As snapshot is being used for ASGs, right? If we want to uh,
Wait,
duplicate
wait,
or
wait. I want you to correct you. The snapshots is not used for AZs. Please make sure that try to understand it clearly. I think so. Your name is Riyaz, I think so. Okay, try to understand it clearly. The snapshots is not used for availability zones. It is used for EBS volumes for replicating the EBS volumes from one availability zone to the other availability zone. Make sure to form a what can I say understanding like this. Okay, can you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I got the point that for ABS we can use a snapshot for ASIS, right? We can replicate
Or which one? I can't able to get you correctly.
ABS.
Yes, for EBS, you're
Ye-
supposed to use snapshots. For want to
ye-
replicate the other availability zones, AZs, you need to use snapshots.
The same thing we can do in this EC2 instances. ABS can be replicate from one EC2 instance to another EC2 instance.
Yes, I said. Why? Because if you want to replicate the same EBS volumes from one EC2 instance to another EC2 instance, what you have to do something. But first, you have to detach the EC2 instance, what we have in the associated EC2 instance. Sorry, detach the EBS volumes. Then you have to attach to the other EC2 instance. That's what I said. For each and every time you are creating a new EC2 instance for the application. Okay, it might be an auto scaling group states, n number of instances what you have. At each and every time, would you prefer that I want to do it manually by removing the EC2 instance, removing the attached EBS volumes, detach it, then remove it to the new thing? Would you prefer that?
No, not at all.
So something you will need some automation, right? You need some kind of automation. Instead, what I have to do something, but Instead of detaching the EBS volumes from one EC2 instance, attaching to the other EC2 instance, it's going to be a tedious thing what I have. Instead, what I can do is something, but I can store that EBS volume inside one complete storage spot, right? Where I'll store the EBS volumes inside an EBS snapshot, where I've archived it, recover it, restore it back. Make sure that that EBS snapshots can be used by all the EC2 instance what I create. And as I said, all the EC2 instance what you're going to create will not depending upon one specific availability zones. It might have other n number of availability zones what we have. So to make sure to happen, then we need to have another automatic solution, right? So that's why EBS snapshots will be working on.
Okay, thank you very much. One more clarification regarding auto scaling. So auto scaling is for vertical vertical and horizontal for both, right? Or it is
Can
only
be. Can be. I would say it can be. Why? Because it depends upon your application, right? You're working on.
because we saw in the during the session that you just focused on that auto scaling is only for this horizontal. So we can
No,
do
no,
for
no.
both. Yeah.
No, that's the thing is depends upon your application. Yes. Why? Because if I want to say that application needs a vertical scalability, like I don't want another T2 dot micro EC2 instance. I need a T2 dot medium. And instead of having a T2 dot medium, I need to have another T2 dot large. That thing you need to scale it up. But what I'm saying is that moreover, auto scaling routes will be used for horizontal scaling only. Why? Because they won't try to put the configuration at that end. What they'll do is nothing, but they will what I say enormously increase the number of instances with the same instance type. That's why I said more specifically that auto scaling groups might be used will be used only for horizontal scaling.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Do you have any other questions? Or let me just any of the chairs? AWS, okay. And guys, if you go ahead and use the AWS free trial services, guys, for your practice. Okay, I would say go ahead and use the AWS free trial, guys. And the thing is, we'll try to put these things, but how the admin team is going to give me those things, I'll be proving out. What two denotes in EC2, right? Have you seen the entire definition what EC2 is all about? Elastic Compute Cloud, right? CC, Compute Cloud. There are two C's, right? That is the definition for two, which is available over there, Ahmed. Okay. And yes, you'll get the PDF, and admin team will be providing you the PDF. And is there any other questions? Okay, have a problem in volume for the
Sir,
data.
one last request. If time permits you, then if we do lab simultaneously along with this session, then that would be very benefited for us, and we will grab as much as we can.
Okay, let me try. Guys, if you have any other questions, you can just post that in the group. I will go ahead. Okay. So thank you guys. Thank you for attending. We'll meet you tomorrow with another new topic. And I think so the topic has been came, right? Tomorrow we'll be getting into the object level storage. Like we've done with the EC2 servers and we've done with the server part. Let's get into the storage part. We'll be getting into another one more important service for you, which is nothing but and guys, can you just ask that in the WhatsApp group? We'll try to put it over there. Okay.
Thank
So
you, sir.
thank you everyone. Thank you. So please recognize it. So tomorrow we'll be going with that thing with the S3, which is nothing but a simple storage service, or not the important prominent one, I would say. Go ahead and we'll be seeing a lot about that. And most prominently, let me try to put you another use case for you there, and we'll be seeing you more. Right. Thank you. Thank you everyone. Bye bye.